My parents slid documents across the table like a trap snapping shut. The scrape of paper on mahogany echoed, sharp, unnerving, like a warning. My sister, Stacy, smiled like she'd already won. Cold, rehearsed, all teeth, her eyes glinting with certainty. Stacy is taking over your store, my father said, calm and clinical. Because you're not capable. The words hit like ice. Every insult, every dismissal, every year of being overlooked flashed through me like a film reel. My fingers stiffened. My chest tightened. I froze. But he didn't know what I knew. 3 months ago, a dusty box my mother had told me to shred revealed everything. Hidden for 17 years, the inheritance clause glared back at me like a secret screaming to be exposed, along with 3 years of proof he'd been quietly stealing from me. Every lie, every manipulation, meticulously tucked between family documents, meant to look harmless. I slid my own documents across the table. Thin, but heavier than any threat they'd imagined. My father's face went pale. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. Stacy's eyes widened. Her smile faltered. The air in the room shifted, thick and electric. In that moment, I realized the people who tried to erase me were about to erase themselves. My name is Madeline. I'm 40. And on this Sunday night, with dinner plates still warm and contracts pre-written, my family sat me down to erase me. Comment where you're watching from. And if you've ever been the invisible child, drop a heart. They think they've already won. My father has his lawyer's folder. My sister has her MBA confidence. My mother has her poison honey voice ready. They've rehearsed this intervention, plotted every move, written contracts to steal my business, while calling it help. But here's what they don't know. 3 months ago, I found the inheritance documents hidden in Mom's closet. I know about the building Grandpa left me. I know about the fraud. I know everything. So when my sister Stacy gives me that fake kind smile as I walk in, I smile back. Because tonight, I'm not the victim. I'm the bomb they don't see coming. My sister Stacy was already at the table when I arrived. She gave me that smile, the one that looked kind but had teeth behind it. My father didn't waste time. He looked at me and said, "Madeline, sit down. We need to discuss your business." He pulled out a folder, expensive looking, the kind lawyers use when they want you to know they mean business. Dad's voice was measured when he spoke. "Your mother and I have been talking. The boutique has done adequately. But it's time for professional management." Adequately. That one word carried 17 years of dismissal. But here's what they didn't know. Last year, my boutique grossed $487,000 with a net profit of $412,000, more than my father made in his best year. And now they wanted to take it. Dad continued, his tone practiced and clinical. "Stacy has agreed to take over operations. She has an MBA from Wharton. She'll modernize things, bring in systems, turn this into a real business." Stacy leaned forward with practiced sympathy. "And you'll still be involved, Mads. 25% of the profits. No overhead, no stress. You can finally just breathe." I let those words hang in the air for a moment before responding. 25% of my business. That I built. From nothing. The facade is cracking. They keep pushing, trying to corner me into signing. But with every word they say, I see their manipulation more clearly. The fake concern. The weaponized memories. The documents already prepared. They think I'm trapped. They have no idea I'm about to spring the trap on them. My mother jumped in, her voice sweet as poison. "Honey, you've worked so hard. But the books, the inventory, the staffing, it's just too much for one person." I kept my voice even. "I have 2 employees and a bookkeeper." My father's face went hard, the warmth draining from his expression instantly. "The building is ours, Madeline. You're not equipped to scale. You're a good salesperson, but running a business requires skills you simply don't have." I cut him off. I increased revenue 40% last year. The number hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. My father pushed the documents toward me with deliberate force. 3 neat stacks. all tabbed with yellow flags showing exactly where I needed to sign my life away. They'd already written the contracts, planned this entire ambush, all without asking me a single question. What circumstances? I asked. That look passed between them, volumes of unspoken communication without a single word. Dad explained with the patience of someone talking to a child. The building needs significant repairs. 80,000 in expenses. We could pass those costs to you as the tenant, but we're being reasonable. I finished his sentence for him by taking my business instead. My mother's voice dropped to dangerous softness. Remember that panic attack you had last year? You called me sobbing. I'd had that panic attack because they'd raised my rent by $1,200 a month with 30 days notice, from $800 to $2,000. I told my mother in confidence, in a moment of weakness. And now she was weaponizing it against me. My father stood, not aggressive, just positioning himself, like he always did when he wanted to remind you who was in charge. He tapped the contract. Madeline, we need your signature. That's when I reached into my bag. My father's face changed. The color drained away like water through a sieve. He asked carefully, "What is this?" This was the moment everything changed. I pulled out my folder, the one with Grandpa Edward's trust documents, the proof of their fraud, 3 years of evidence they thought I'd never find. The truth was about to detonate. I slid my folder across the table. Thinner than his, but somehow heavier. Grandpa Edward's trust document. The commercial property at 447 Maple Street transfers to me upon his death. Executed in 2005. Notarized. You were named trustees until I turned 37. That was 3 years ago. And you never told me. Stacy grabbed the papers, scanning frantically, her eyes getting wider with each line she read. I continued, letting each word land with precision. You've been charging me rent for a property you don't own. That's called fraud. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest. We didn't know. I pulled out another document from my folder. An email from 2006. Subject line, Madeline's future. I said flatly, he told you everything. Your duties. The timeline. All of it. You've known for 19 years. Stacy threw the papers down on the table, her voice rising in pitch. This is insane. I turned to face her directly. What do you have, Stacy? An MBA and a job where you bill clients $500 an hour for PowerPoints about synergy. My mother stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Don't you dare talk to your sister that way. My father's voice broke through the chaos, raw and unfiltered. You were never supposed to find that document. There it was, the truth, raw and ugly, and finally spoken out loud. His mask gone. Just a man who'd been caught. I pulled out tax records for the building, 3 years' worth, and laid them on the table one by one. You've been claiming this property on your taxes, taking deductions, while charging me rent. That's fraud. And when Grandpa died, you hid the trust and kept collecting. Now you're trying to take my business before I figured out. You needed control of my income before I discovered I owned the building. Before I could cut you off completely. My mother sank back into her chair, whispering, Madeline, we can explain. I cut her off with surgical precision. You charged your own daughter rent on a building she already owned. You called me incompetent while stealing from me for 3 years. What's there to explain? Stacy's voice got small, almost childlike. I didn't know about the trust. I swear. I looked at her, really looked at her. But you knew about the takeover. You had a 5-year plan ready. You came here tonight prepared to take everything I built. My father stood, his face turning red with rage. You think you can just... I interrupted him, my voice flat and final. I already talked to 3 lawyers. The trust is valid. The property is mine. What you've done is fraud. Dad shouted, losing all composure. We're your parents. I replied evenly. And I'm the daughter you just tried to erase. Then I looked at my sister. When's my birthday, Stacy? Silence. Her eyes darted to our parents. November 14th. You don't even know when I was born, but you came here to take my business. I turned to my mother. You told her I was struggling. You lied. Didn't you, Mom? My mother's face hardened like cement setting. You were always difficult. From the time you were little. Never grateful for what we did. I interrupted, my voice gaining strength with each revelation. I worked 3 jobs to pay for community college while you paid for Stacy's Wharton tuition. And when I got accepted to Wharton too with a full scholarship, you told me I wasn't Wharton material. You said I should be realistic about my capabilities. I turned down a full ride to Wharton because you convinced me I'd fail. Stacy's had snapped toward me, her face draining of color. You got into Wharton? I nodded slowly. Full scholarship. 3 years after you graduated. They wanted me. Her face crumpled, every carefully constructed belief about our family collapsing. I didn't know. I never knew that. My father's voice was flat, defeated, all the bluster gone. What do you want? I stated my terms clearly and without emotion. I want you to sign a document acknowledging the property is mine. I want every cent in rent returned with interest. And I want a written apology. Dad said coldly, trying to find some remaining ground to stand on. We'll fight this. I responded calmly, playing my final card. The IRS already has my complaint. Form 3949A, filed 3 months ago when I first discovered everything. The audit's coming. You're looking at $200,000 in back taxes and penalties. Or you sign, return the money, and we're done. Your choice. My mother doubled over as if I'd struck her. I continued, laying out the terms with clinical precision. Sign the acknowledgement, return the money, and walk away. No audit. No lawsuit. No charges. My father's jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jump in his cheek. This is extortion. I corrected him one final time. No, Dad. This is me protecting what's mine. You taught me that. You just never thought I'd use it against you. I stood and gathered my papers, preparing to leave. But I had one more move to make. 3 days later, they made their next move, calling a family meeting at their country club. Not their house. The country club. This was damage control, an attempt to make me look unreasonable in front of their friends. But they were about to learn. I don't back down anymore. I could have ignored them. But they wanted witnesses? Fine. They'd get witnesses to their own destruction. The private dining room was packed when I arrived. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the club president, my father's golf buddies. This wasn't a family meeting. This was a trial. And I was the accused. My father gestured to an empty chair with theatrical concern. We wanted to clear up this misunderstanding. In front of witnesses who care about our family. I remained standing. He continued, addressing the room like a prosecutor, making his opening statement. Madeline has gotten some questionable legal advice. She thinks her grandfather left her a property, but the documentation has significant issues. I said firmly, cutting through his narrative. It's notarized and legally binding. The room went silent as I pulled out my phone and showed my tax return. Gross receipts, $487,000. Net profit, $412,000. Someone gasped. My father's face went white. I pulled out the trust document. Grandpa left me the building 19 years ago. They hid it. Charged me rent on property I owned. Filed fraudulent tax returns. And tonight they brought me here to humiliate me into silence. Phones came out. People started recording. My father stood, his voice shaking. This is a private family matter. I cut him off. You made it public, Dad. You wanted witnesses. I picked up my papers. The IRS has everything. The property is mine. The business is mine. And you'll never be part of either again. The club president stood. Cole, I think you and Martha should leave. I didn't look back, but I heard it, the exact moment their reputation shattered. I made it to my car before my phone buzzed. Unknown number. What happened next changed everything again because the truth was even bigger than I discovered. A female voice spoke, older and professional. Madeline Harper? I said cautiously. Yes? She introduced herself with careful formality. My name is Patricia Morrison. I was your grandfather Edward's estate attorney. I've been trying to reach you for 3 years. The phone almost slipped from my hand. 3 years, she explained, frustration evident in her tone. Your parents told me you'd moved abroad. No forwarding address. They said they'd notify you when you returned. They even provided an overseas contact that never responded. I leaned against my car, my legs unsteady. I've been here the whole time, running my business. In the building Grandpa left me. There was a long silence. Then she said quietly, Miss Harper, the property trust wasn't the only one. I stopped breathing. She continued, and I could hear her choosing her words carefully. Your grandfather established 3 separate trusts. One for you, one for Stacy, and one for his charitable foundation, with you as sole trustee. I whispered, barely able to form the words, how much? Ms. Morrison's voice was steady. The foundation was $1.2 million when he passed. It's now $2.1 million. Your parents collected trustee fees of $120,000 annually for 4 years. They never transferred control to you. I did the math quickly in my head. They stole almost $500,000 in fees alone. She said urgently, Ms. Harper, I need to meet with you. Today if possible. Because there's one more thing you need to know. I asked, dreading the answer. What? She explained with the precision of someone delivering life-changing news. Your grandfather included a penalty clause. They missed the deadline. The clause gives you legal grounds to petition for immediate control of the entire $2.1 million. No restrictions. And what they've done is criminal breach of fiduciary duty. Prison time. Unless you decide otherwise. I thanked Ms. Morrison and ended the call. Then I sat in my car in the country club parking lot and cried for the first time in 3 months. Not angry tears. Grief. For the parents I thought I had. For the daughter I'd tried so hard to be. For all those years I believed them when they said I wasn't enough. I cried until my chest hurt and my throat was raw. Then I wiped my face, looked in the rearview mirror and made myself a promise. I would never let anyone make me feel invisible again. I looked back at the country club, and through the window, I could see Stacy still sitting at the table, alone, staring at something in her hands. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I had to do. But first, I needed to know if my sister was a victim too, or if she'd been in on it from the start. I looked back at the country club through my car window. Stacy was still sitting at the table alone, staring at something in her hands. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I had to do. But first, I needed to know if my sister was a victim too, or if she'd been in on it from the start. That's when I called her that night. Meet me at my store tomorrow. 10 a.m. Come alone. Don't tell them you're coming. Her voice was small, defeated. Okay. When she arrived the next morning, she looked broken. Dark circles. No makeup. Her polish completely gone. I slid a folder across the table. Your inheritance. The one they never told you about. Her hands shook as she read. I continued. Grandpa Edward left you a stock portfolio. $200,000 when you turned 34. You're 40 now. With growth and dividends, it's worth $320,000. They've been collecting it for 6 years. Stacy whispered, the words barely audible. They stole from me too. I nodded. Yes, they did. She looked up at me, her face blank, then her eyes went unfocused, staring past me at nothing. This whole time, I thought I was the favorite, the golden child, the one they actually loved. I said gently, they loved what you represented, Stacy. Control. Compliance. Obedience. You were their success story. She said bitterly, years of realization crashing down at once. I gave up everything to make them happy. I took a job I hate because it looked good. I married Mason because he came from the right family. We're divorced now, by the way. I missed my best friend's wedding because Mom needed me at some charity luncheon. And the whole time, they were robbing me blind. She stared at the documents for a long moment, then back at me. What are you going to do? I pulled out another folder, thicker than the first. I said carefully, watching her reaction, There's a third trust. Grandpa's charitable foundation. 2.1 million. I was supposed to control it at 37. They've been collecting $120,000 a year in fees. For 4 years. But they missed the deadline. Ms. Morrison says the penalty clause gives me grounds to petition for immediate control of the entire 2.1 million. No strings. And I decide whether to press charges. Stacy's voice was barely a whisper. Are you going to? Press charges. I looked at my sister, really looked at her for the first time in years. I don't know yet. But I know this. I'm not doing this alone anymore. Whatever happens next, we do it together. Or not at all. She asked carefully, uncertainty and anticipation mixing in her expression. What do you mean? I said firmly, the decision crystallizing as I spoke. I mean we split everything. Your trust money. My foundation money. We build something neither of them can touch. Something Grandpa would actually be proud of. And we do it as sisters. Real sisters. Not the ones they tried to make us. Water ran down Stacy's face. Why would you do that? After everything I did to you? I said simply, because Grandpa saw something in both of us, Stacy. He set up 3 trusts. One for you, one for me, and one we could use to help other people. He knew what they were, and he tried to protect us from them. I'm not going to let his last gift turn me into them. She stood, walked around the table, and hugged me for the first time in 20 years. Stacy whispered against my shoulder. I'm in. Whatever it takes. I'm with you. 2 weeks later, the dust settled. But not the way my parents hoped. Everything they tried to hide came to light. Everything they tried to steal came back to its rightful owners. And the family they tried to control? We rebuilt it on our own terms. 2 weeks later, my parents signed the acknowledgement. They returned $72,000 in rent payments, 3 years at $2,000 per month, plus interest. But the IRS audit came through anyway. I didn't stop it. They owed $147,000 in back taxes and penalties. The foundation transfer went through smoothly after a brief court proceeding. I became the sole trustee of $2.1 million. Stacy got her stock portfolio back, plus 6 years of dividend income she never knew existed. Total, $320,000. And together, we made a decision. We didn't press criminal charges. But we did cut them off completely. No contact. No holidays. No but their family exceptions. We were done, and this time it was final. I took Grandpa's money and built something beautiful. The boutique doubled in size. I hired 6 more employees, all women rebuilding after financial abuse. Stacy started the Invisible Daughters Project with a $300,000 grant from the foundation I now control. We have coffee every Thursday. Not because I need her. Because I choose her. We're not the sisters they tried to make us. We're better. Last week, a customer asked if I'd inherited the building from my parents. I didn't flinch. No. My grandfather left it to me. Because he saw something in me they couldn't. She looked around at everything I'd built. What did he see? I thought about that for a moment. Someone who didn't need anyone's permission to exist. My parents tried to erase me. They tried to make me small, manageable, controllable, forgettable. Instead, they erased themselves. They didn't just lose a daughter. They lost their control. They lost $2.1 million. They lost their reputation at the country club. They lost their golden child. They lost everything. I see my mother sometimes. At the grocery store. She pretends not to notice me. But I see her hands shake when she reaches for items on the shelf. I see her glance over, just once, before she turns away. My father sent an email last month. Subject line: Can we talk? I deleted it without opening it. Stacy asked me once if I ever think about forgiving them. I looked at her and said, forgiveness is for people who feel guilty. I don't. They wanted me invisible. Now I'm the only thing they see when they close their eyes. And me? I've never felt more alive.